Hello, my name is Faina, and I have dedicated the last 7 years to honing my craft and fine-tuning my strategy.
Welcome to Trading in the Zen, where we help traders find their groove. I'm your co-host, Louise Nonwheeler, a trading psychologist and multi-award-winning clinical hypnotherapist. Join us weekly as we delve into the trading world, exploring psychology, well-being, health, and mindset. Through expert insight, interviews, and actionable strategies, we help you as traders unlock the mindset needed to navigate markets with confidence and achieve peak performance.
At Trading in the Zen, we believe that there's much more to trading than numbers and probabilities. Like an athlete, a trader should operate in their peak state. Each week, you will have mind-blowing interviews as well as actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become a better trader. Thanks for spending time with us today. Now, let's dive right in. On this episode, we interview Jaden Sterling. Jaden is a founder of Sterling Stock Picker, and after years inside major firms like Citigroup and Merrill Lynch, he realized that the peak trading performance isn't just about the charts and data. It's about intuition, energy, and alignment. And that is exactly what he brings to the investing space, a holistic strategy that blends financial acumen with inner clarity. Welcome to Trading in the Zen. Today, we have someone very special, a veteran of the markets. Welcome to the show, Jaden.
Thank you so much, ladies. Happy to be here with you. It's going to be a great conversation.
It's a pleasure, Jaden. It's lovely to have you. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about where you're coming from and sort of how you started in the business, and then we'll get to all the juicy stuff.
Yeah, happy to. So I actually would need to go back to age 14. I had an epiphany. Have y'all ever had an epiphany where time stands still?
Yes.
And there's certain things.
Not at 14.
Not at 14. Okay.
At 14, I did not have many epiphanies. No.
My first one was at 14. And the interesting thing was it was all around what I'd be doing for my life purpose. And I was told very clearly that I would be helping people with the topic of money, that I would be teaching on platforms around the world, and then I would be helping people to become empowered by money, not enslaved by it. And lastly, I was told that I would learn from personal experience and teach from personal experience, not from a book I read or course that I took. So that set my entire life journey path right there. I went to school at American University in Washington, D.C. and studied finance. After that, I worked on Wall Street for two major Wall Street firms, Merrill Lynch and Citigroup. And I was in that industry for 10 years. And what I learned was that the industry is built to make money off of clients, not for clients. So that was a big eye-opening situation for me. And what I really learned about money and investing was from my wealthy clients who would come through the door with millions of dollars in their portfolio in 6 to 8 different stocks. That was it. They just had concentrated large positions. You know, this has been the 90s. Back then, it was like John Deere, IBM, big companies like that back in the day. And when I realized that, we were told sell those stocks and diversify the portfolio in under the guise of safety. Well, that's a lie that is still told to this day, that in order to be a safe investor, you must have your assets diversified among all these different asset classes. And it's not true. Warren Buffett said it best. Do you all know Warren Buffett? Have you heard of him?
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
He said it best. He said diversification is the tax that people pay who don't know what they're doing. So when we think about what these experts, Warren Buffett has been sitting in a large cash position, $332 billion since early this year. And now we find ourselves in end of April 2025, and the markets have declined 15%, which over time is a normal decline in the equity markets. It's a healthy decline. And yet, we still have, and Louise, this speaks right to what you do, is we still have this healthy bit of fear from investors because investors are terrible at buying things on sale. Have you noticed that?
Mhm.
The fear kicks in, right? When things drop in price, but anything else can go on sale. You can have paper towels and you're running to the store buying a 6-pack, right? Like so many different things can go on sale and people applaud it. And when stocks go on sale, they're so fearful of it. But when do most investors buy? As the markets are going up because you have FOMO. So now we have to get to the point of what it takes to be a really good trader. And honestly, frankly, it takes enjoying what you do. You got to love the game, first of all. I really believe that. If you don't absolutely love what you do, and there's traders of all different types. We can trade forexes, we can trade industries, we can trade indexes, we can trade real estate, we can trade equities, option contracts. There's so many different products available for investors. But the first thing is you got to love the game. And if you really love the game, then you're going to stay in the game. And if you stay in long enough, you go through markets like we're in now, and you learn from this market. Like I was just talking to a client before a show, and she said the market, is really causing me a little bit of stress and strain. And I said, well, then you got to applaud this type of market because it's teaching you something. A market that just keeps going up and up and up and up, which is what we had most of last year, taught us nothing. It just taught us to be an investor and stay in stocks. So when we can take a step back and learn from really wealthy people, which I was fortunate in my 20s, I followed what my wealthy clients did. I bought one stock the entire decade of the 90s, invested 70,000 into it. It grew to almost $1 million during that decade. I had no idea it was going to split 3 times. I had no idea it was going to double, and it just did phenomenally well. But I only did that because I learned from my wealthy clients.
Amazing.
The only epiphany I had at 14 that boys were not yucky. So, that you were way, way ahead of me on that one. But to your point, I think markets require a certain type of fluidity, right? And being able to be nimble and to be, because it's a living organism. And I think people, when you think you figure it all out, markets will teach you otherwise. So, what are your thoughts on being nimble and kind of a forever student? Because anyone who says I have it all figured out, I don't believe them. It's BS. No one has it all figured out. I mean, we move 100 points in the S&P before the markets even open. So you tell me you have a strategy it's just, 400 points in the first 30 minutes. But last week it was insane, right? So that would require larger stops. That would require different type of, I guess strategies. That would require you to maybe stay out if you're not ready for that kind of, freight train that's coming through. And so what are your thoughts on fluidity and trading?
I think that's the only way to be a trader, is to be a fluid trader. You have to be. I really like the idea in this market to be in and out of positions in the shortest period of time. So as you enter a position, you set your target, whether it's 25, 30, 50%, whatever your goal is, and exit that position. The risk that we have now in this market is staying in a stock or any position overnight because of the volatility with politically, everything that's going on a macro level. So I think that fluidity is absolutely key. You hit the nail on the head there. And I think also is learning how to lose money properly.
Mm.
You can't really gain until you learn how to lose. And because, as we know, not all traders, you're not going to win every single bet. Like if you win half or 6 out of 10, you're way ahead of the game. But what I see with investors is they lose and then they do a revenge trade. Oh, I'm going to double down and I'm going to, I'm going to make back the money I lost. And that's, money is one of those things that doesn't have a memory. It simply forgets. So you, as a trader, an investor, need to forget if you had a loss. First of all, learn from it. But certainly you don't want to do a revenge trade. You don't want to, get into doing something to try to make up for a loss. Every trade is a new energetic space. And
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt. I just want to dive deeper into this because you're
Yep.
exactly Right. The number one pitfall for traders, for revenge trading, over trading, going on what we call tilt, is after a loss. And it's almost like it's just, as humans, it's human behavior. We don't like to lose. We don't like to lose money. It's almost in our DNA. So my question is, what would your suggestions be on this in regards to, you mentioned sort of almost having to reset and all like realign after each loss. But what would your suggestions be to any trader out there who struggles with accepting losses?
So, great question. And thanks for double clicking on that. So, I think the key is to first paper trade, just practice. Practice your trading, get comfortable with the idea of trading, the idea of gaining money and losing money. You have to be equally comfortable with both because both will happen along the way. And so after paper trading, then start with small trades. Like you don't want to be trading out of the gate with your mortgage money or your rent money, that type of thing, right? You want to make sure that you're trading within your means of what you can easily afford to lose. And then as long as you're trading, so that puts somewhat of a comfort level with the money that you have on a trade. When you're comfortable, then you have an opportunity to make better moves. You're not trading out of desperation, you're not trading out of frustration, you're trading in your what I call the power zone. So the power zone is you comfortable with the amount of money that you're trading and then a very clear directive of what you're doing with that trade. What is the goal for that trade? Is it, like I mentioned, maybe you're having a tough day, maybe your goal is 10%. All right, in and out. How quickly can you get that type of return? And we always know the trend is your friend. I mean, the number, probably one of the most important trading strategies to remember. So we want to go with the trend. We don't have to get in at the bottom and we don't have to get out at the top. We can get enough in the middle to earn, if you're getting 10, 20% a day trading, the compound effect of that is astronomical.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they always say to the subject of losses, right? The most dangerous trade you can take is the one after a loss, because if there's no space, that's the most dangerous trade you can take because you are not in the right space. So I always tell people maybe take a breath, maybe leave the room and then come back in because it gives you a fresh set of eyes. And also because I see people and they say, oh my God, I took my profits and it won another 200 points. Well, you did not know that it would, right? If we all knew that. And so coulda, woulda, shoulda, that guy will kill you. And a low-hanging fruit compound growth is what people are missing because everyone, you look on social media and people making you believe that they're making millions every single day. They're not talking about their worst day. They're talking about their best day. And anyone who says they have a best day every single day, then you define the statistics by which, traders are measured, right? And the math for me is not mathing. When you tell me that you don't ever lose, then your math is not mathing. But as far as I know you focus a lot on mind body kind of alignment. When you feel yourself going into a tilt, because it's so easy, right? Because fight or flight kicks in, and it's trading is counterintuitive because we put ourselves in danger as opposed to run away from danger. How do you physically reset yourself to be able to look at things soberly and not through some kind of filter of a previous loss or a previous game?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I've had to do that very recently because of the declines in the markets. I was typically a long investor, buying calls, buying stocks long, and I really had to reevaluate that approach. And so I went back to the basics. And I think the quote is, the battle is won before it is fought. So the back to the basics was my mindset. Where is my mindset? And I had to look at things differently and say, okay, we know stocks take stairs on the way up, but they take the elevator down. And more money is made on the downside than the upside. So when I started to really look at that and gave myself permission to make money on the downside, I was able to start taking put contracts. And I don't short stocks, but I do buy puts, and puts go up, as we know, as stocks go down. So it was a more of a comfortable strategy for me rather than having all my money fully invested in stocks on the in a long position. I just started buying put contracts and they started paying off. And I thought, okay, this is working. So I'm learning. First of all, we have to get back to the basics. The MFI doesn't lie, right? Like the MFI is similar to the RSI. So when we're looking at money flowing out of stocks and low MFIs, there's a reason for that. The sellers are coming in, especially, the institutional sellers, the venture capitalists. When traders kick in and trading platforms kick in on the sell side, it's fast and furious. And so what I've learned with put contracts as well is I'm in the morning, out in the afternoon on a down day.
Mhm.
Great advice.
That's a very, very good point. Yeah, because I know that for I'm a day trader, so I do not stay in trades probably more than 15 to 20 minutes. My trades materialize rather quickly. So I have to make quick decisions all the time. And so sometimes you have to limit how long you sit in front of the computer because you can only make sound decisions for just about so long. So I have a very, very, very clear windows of opportunity. And if not, then not. And I close down because the longer I sit there, the more I convince myself that I see things I do not see.
Yes.
So how would losses happen? I mean, to be profitable, you can be 50% right as long as you manage your losses correctly. If
That's right.
someone is dealing with a string of losses, what would you recommend they do?
The opposite of what is comfortable. The
Hmm.
reason someone is dealing with a string of losses is because they've gotten to a pattern that they're comfortable with and it's not working. So it's almost like you have to force yourself to do the exact opposite of what you've been doing all along. And also, I think too, we talked about it before the show, listening to your inner guidance system. We're all built for it. We're wired with this incredible guidance system that can alert us and help us as traders. I'm always asking I call my team in the non-physical dimension for assistance with this because, I'll hear like, okay, it's time. And then I know right then I got to close my position. And then, or I'll get a feeling of, well, add a call now, like I got that feeling Monday late in the day. It's like, okay, you've had enough add a call now. Well, now we've just had 3 up days in a row, which is a miracle for this market, but now those call contracts are paying off really well. So I think we need to be finely tuned to our inner guidance system and listen. That's the key. It's like we're getting this guidance, so whether you're following it or not is really going to be a make or break. So that's what I would say. I would say for someone who's had a long, don't get down on yourself. It's only money, first of all. Like put it in perspective. Like get really clear about the fact that it is only money. And people say, oh yeah, you say that so cavalierly because you've got money. Well, that's not always been the case in my life. I haven't always had money. So, but I still felt the same way about it as I do now. It's a tool. It's not the end all beat all.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
I think you've touched on something so interesting actually, Jaden, around intuition, tapping into that as best as possible. And I think like in trading, there's many what we call fine lines. And I think that is a fine line, isn't it, between being like a systematic trader and then intuition. It's like, well, how, because when I work very intuitively. But for a trader, it's like, well, how do you find that balance? How do you kind of trade with intuition versus following your process, so to speak?
Well, to your point, people try to trade everything, and that is their first problem. When you go everywhere between forex to bonds to you're in too many pots, right? And so, in my opinions, I specifically trade the S&P. That's it. You develop an intuition once you watch something move. You know what she's capable of. You know where she's trying to go. Generally, you have some sort of a sense, right? So I think the first thing that people should do is narrow down what they trade. because everything moves separately, has its own life force, is moved by different news, different factors. Oil is not moving the same as an S&P, and has different factors. Forex pairs are not moving the same way as an S&P. Yes, rooted in dollar, but then again, there's other world economies. I think just narrowing it down will probably cut down on a lot of that angst, and then the intuition is more of something that's observed, and you have more confidence in yourself, right? What are your thoughts on that?
I wholeheartedly agree. Get to know what you're trading, first of all. Like, I've got friends who trade futures, and one was a farmer and she was getting into futures. I said, well, you grow wheat, trade the wheat futures, like just go with what you know. And you're absolutely right. And then so once you start to, because everything has a pattern to it and history repeats itself. So when you start to become really familiar with that commodity that you're trading, that currency that you're trading, that precious metal that you're trading, or the equities that you're trading, like you're gonna start to get a sense of how they trade. And then the other part is teaching yourself to know internally what's a yes or a no. And that's not difficult when you start to tune into the physical body. Like I know I can feel a yes on one side of my body and a no on the other. So all I need to do is ask myself, today, do I buy a put on this stock? Like that's my question, right? Today, do I buy a put? And if I feel a no, and I'm like, okay, then obviously I'm buying a call.
Mhm.
I love that.
But not to be confused with emotions are not strategies, right? So there is a big difference between intuitively kind of knowing and having a feel for something you trade because you've observed it over a period of time, and using your emotions as strategies and saying, oh, I'm just feeling, I'm just gonna this feels okay. I think there's a difference between the two. How does one know if it's your intuition or you're just plain emotional and unreasonable?
The emotion is the biggest detriment to us as traders, the emotion part. You've got to be able to somehow, whatever it is, set it aside, shelf it before you go sit down at your trading platform. Do the best that you can. You're absolutely right. Because if you get emotional, it's why the market is volatile, because of emotions. Traders trade on emotion, whether right or wrong. And if you can do your best to take the emotion out and tune into the physical to get a yes or a no answer, like that's one of the easiest ways to go about it. And, like my other suggestion was, is this the right time to be taking a position in the stock? Your body will tell you once you get comfortable hearing it, listening to it.
Yes.
So yeah, you're right. The emotions don't help anyone with anything.
I completely agree with that, Jaden. However, like for me, I feel like it's really important as human beings that we do not try and suppress emotions. I feel like it's how we manage emotions. We know that the biggest emotion in trading is fear, and it's the amygdala, it's the primitive, isn't it? It's the dinosaur. There's no dinosaurs around anymore. There's no lions. We know that rationally, but it's embedded in us. So the question is, when that fear comes in, there are many different techniques that we can use. We've got resources within ourselves. Let's talk about breath work, if we
Oh
can.
yeah.
Because you're
That's
a huge advocate of breath work. And the breath work, as we know, can get us from a heightened state of stress to calm within 60 seconds or less. So
It sure can. You've absolutely said it correctly. It's like that's the thing that, can help shift. Breath is the range of motion in the mind and the body. So as you're shifting the motion in the mind, the body shifts as well to a more relaxed state. That's the whole idea, is just getting a trader relaxed before they go into a trade. When you watch really good traders, and the beautiful thing about YouTube is there's so many great traders that trade live. You can actually watch them as they trade. And I've noticed a pattern with the most successful traders are so relaxed.
yeah.
Have you noticed that too? They're just like kind of chill, like, oh, look, I'm up 600%. Let me pop the cork on the champagne. I got to celebrate, like I love that. I love that idea. So you can tell they totally love what they do and they're so relaxed about it. Like they've been able not to suppress any emotions, but they're managing their emotions in a state of absolute flow. And to me, it seems like pure joy, like bliss, you know?
Yeah, they're in that lovely, you can feel their energy, can't you? And it's like Bruce Lee says, be like water. I think it's the same in trading. Just try and be in that, try and just kind of, instead of that resistance and that kind of, that stress, almost surrender. Just kind of be in that flow. But of course, with
It's a bit more playfulness to it, right? Because every time I come somewhere, like to my, not somewhere, but to my computer to make money or to make up for the last day, it is a disaster. It is complete disaster, and I already come with the wrong mindset, right? And if you come to play and kind of discover it as it's occurring, then you don't have such a hard bias that you're trying to hammer in or like an agenda, but you become more playful and, as you said, Louise, more flowy with it. And I think some of the best traders, when they took a little, tap on the nose, they go, well, you know what? It was a pleasure to get stopped out quickly. And that is, I think, what people need to. It is a pleasure to get stopped out quickly. What is not a pleasure is sitting in a trade and they say hope dies last. And so when the minute I start hoping and praying, I know I should probably close out, because a trade that when you're in the flow and and you're on the right side and you're calm, I'm not hoping and praying. But the minute I start leaning in and hoping and praying, that is probably when I should shut down, win or lose, because I am no longer at like a level state. So for a quick reset, is there any specific breath pattern or a quick breath reset that you can recommend for people when they start to get into that weird space?
Yeah, the quickest reset is to look somewhere else. So you got to move your eyes, right? So I move my eyes out my window. I see a beautiful park, like literally the national park is out my window in the back, and green. I see lots of green. So that's a very calming, soothing color. And then you can change your physiology. So I'll get up, I'll walk around my office, I'll do push-ups, I'll go outside, get grounded into Mother Earth, take a deep breath, relax. I have to get myself relaxed to calm the central nervous system. So that's the number one thing I would say for traders. Train yourself to move your eyes, focus on something else. It can be a really cool picture in your office that automatically brings up like a peaceful, serene scene. It can be out the window if your view out the window is nice, like just, pick and choose, but do it in a purposeful way. And then you're going to change your physiology. You change your physiology, you change your approach to taking that trade.
That's great advice, because sometimes we all need tools. It's all tools in a toolbox. The more tools you have, but also know thyself, right? One that needs to know when they are starting to tilt. Is it the tapping of a foot? Is it that your jaw is tight? Is it because your foot, like your knee is going? You have to start learning and looking at yourself and saying, oh, I am no longer balanced. Because the market's not going anywhere. People forget that the markets are there. It's okay to walk away. You're not taking it with you. It's not running away from you. It's going to be there. But as Luis was saying, it's really hard because your brain is telling you something completely different, and fighting against that is difficult.
I think it's what Jaden said, it's almost like having to break your state, and you do that with one of your senses or more. I mean, I've been suggesting to some of my clients, go out of the room physically and go and do some jumping jacks. And there are so many there's just going on tilt to consistent, just by kind of releasing that. It's like, let it go, let it out of the body, and it can really help, can't it, Jaden?
It's key. And, I remember as a young lad, I took flight lessons, and before every flight, you have what's called a pre-flight checklist.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter how many hours you have as a pilot, you have to go through that pre-flight checklist methodically. And you got to check every box. And it just reminds me of being a trader. Create a checklist for yourself, like what Fiona was saying about knowing yourself. If your jaw's starting to tighten, okay, back away. If you're foot's tapping, back away, do something else. The markets aren't going anywhere. They'll always be there in the afternoon or tomorrow. Step away from it. So that pre-flight checklist is really critical as you sit down to your trading platform and begin to trade. What's your goal for the day? What is your, tune into the body. What's your body telling you? Like, what are all those things that need to be right before you take that position?
And if you're not in a good mental or physical space, what do you think one should keep on or step away? Because I see, like, when you're not feeling well or you're depressed about something else, or you're some days you're just not in it. You sit down and you already feel not in it. Do you think one can uh leave that state and kind of rebalance oneself, or is it better to just slow down and close out for the day and try again tomorrow?
I think you can try to push through anything in life, but why bother?
Mm,
Close it out.
yeah.
Go to the movies, go for lunch with your friend, go for a walk, do something else. There's way more to life than just sitting at your computer trading.
Absolutely. Before we're coming to the end of the show shortly, Jaden, but let's talk about, and I'm going to pronounce it, Sterling Stock Picker. Let's talk about
Yeah.
your company.
Yeah.
It's
Thank you
intriguing,
for that.
fascinating.
So I shared with you my story and how I learned that Wall Street is designed to make money off of people, not for people. And what I learned from my clients investing in individual companies and my mission in life. So 8 years ago, I created what's called Sterling Stock Picker. And it's to help novice investors pick winning stocks. And we have, traders of all levels. But basically, we created an algorithm that searches the financial indicators, fundamental, and the technical indicators. So it does all of the homework that someone would have to do to find a winning stock. And it spits out a list of our winning stocks for investors. And that's what we created 8 years ago. It's been an amazing source of inspiration for people who were so afraid to invest, never even followed their investments, and all of a sudden are earning, 100 or 150% on their money. So we set out to build something that was meaningful and impactful for investors of all levels. And I think we accomplished that with the stock picker.
That's
And
inspiring.
where can one find that? Where can one take a look at it? And
Well, we
kind of,
can give you the link and a discount for your listeners. How about that? Let's give them 30% off, shall we?
Amazing.
we
Thank you.
shall. Wow, 30%
do
off,
it.
guys. So I'm about to,
Sterling,
I don't trade stocks, but this is becoming interesting.
yeah, Sterling,
Yes.
like sterling silver, STERLING, stockpicker.com/VIP. And they'll get 30 days free and 30% off their subscription. And the subscription we priced this very fairly. I think we wanted everyone to take advantage of it. So it's like $29 a month. They get 30% off of that. It ends up being really affordable.
Wow.
This is amazing. I'm actually gonna advise a couple of people who've been asking me, when you trade, people come to you and they say, do me a favor, can you bring your laptop and just show me how to do this? And I'm like, sure. Let me give you the 10 years of experience in the next 30 seconds. So from now on, I'll just, you don't go to like a surgeon and say, hey, you know what, can you show me how to do this bypass real quick?
You're
Because
so right.
grandma's not feeling well and I just want to quickly, fix that for her. So from now on, I'm just gonna say, you know what you should do? Go pick a bunch of go play with this, get a bunch of stocks, get
Yeah.
your feet wet, because you have a full-time job and 7 kids. Like, you're not trading. I promise
That's
you.
right.
This is
That's
not for you. But
Yeah.
there is something you can do. It's
Yep.
just not a quick 10-year, and 30-second pitch, elevator pitch. But that would be really wonderful for those who don't know where to start or just simply don't have the time. Because I think trading is a profession, and if you don't have the time, don't do it.
Yep.
Just simply don't do it. Because dabbling can be devastating to your 401ks, your savings. And I don't think it's mentioned enough how hard it is to be a trader. That's why the success rate is so low. And so I think what you've done is really wonderful because it allows people who otherwise don't have the time to dabble safely.
That's it.
Great.
That's a little bit. Yeah. You don't go in and out of positions because that's especially futures. Please don't trade futures unless you know what you're doing, because
You're-
they will bankrupt you in 20 seconds or less. Today alone, I mean, just don't do it. But go pick a stock, and Sterling Stock Picker will get you some stocks, and you can monitor them daily and feel like a big trader, and it'll just be safer for everyone.
We
So
will
true.
put the links. We will put the links, Jaden. Absolutely. And that's very kind. It's heartwarming. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners will absolutely be grabbing that. So we'll put it in all the links. We have come to the end of the show. And I think that Faina would agree that we could talk to you for hours. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I've enjoyed every second, and I'd love to be back on your show anytime. Feel free to reach out, and we'll pick up where we left off. How about that?
We would love that. That is
We would love that. Maybe we can do a panel of traders and do like pre-market, something pre-market when we talk about what to expect for the week on a Monday. That would be a great thing just for people to kind of focus on where they're going and what we're looking at. So that's something to definitely, I would love to have a meeting of the minds on a given week and see what we
Sure.
can come up with together.
That sounds great. I look forward to it. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Jaden. So
We had a great time. And to everyone listening, thank you so much. And we will see you soon.
see you soon. Thank you very much.